Dear viewers, wherever you are, hello and welcome to this new episode of your program, An Egyptian Anecdote. Previously on this program, we talked about the Book of the Dead, or the Papyrus of Ani, or also known as the Exit to the Dawn, or the Next New Day. When we discussed the papyrus, we saw how civilized the ancient Egyptians were. And contrary to some misconceptions people had, that we today are more civilized or more advanced than the ancient world, which is not true at all, actually. Tonight, we will be talking about how much did the Egyptians exalt virtue, and how important was virtue in the day-to-day Egyptian life, that it was extremely important in the hereafter. So when you were judged, you had to confess some things, to affirm some things, and to negate other things. To shed more light on these great things that the ancient Egyptians believed in, I'm very glad and happy as usual to be accompanied by my guest and friend, Amr Habib. Amr, hello and welcome to the program.
Hello, Muhammad. Nice to see you again.
It's always a pleasure, Amr. And to start off, would you briefly shed some light on the things I talked about in the intro, the confessions, the positive, the affirmative ones, and the negative ones? A general idea, if you may.
So last episode we stopped at when Annie actually, like, his heart was weighted against on the scale against the feather of Maat, and if the heart is like good and he was like a good person, he's gonna make it to the next court room, which is being asked by 42 judges on some behaviors. Some of them should be answered by no, and it's known as the negative confession. And another 42 questions should be answered by yes, and these are called the positive confession. So these type of questions, we're gonna shed more light on it today, like you said. And if you wanna share the screen with like the viewers, so they know how noble and how humane the ancient Egyptians lived their life. So, for example, like one of like 3 out of those 42, I think they are like very, very like on a very high level of civility. So, for example, he's being asked, have you been ever a reason for someone tears? Like, did you make someone cry? You know, did you actually like seduce another man's wife? You know, and
So these are the Maat laws, or like you're talking here about the affirmative ones, not the negative, right?
yeah, so those are type of questions they should answer by no. So these are the negative confessions. Like if he was asked, have you tell lies? No, I haven't tell lies. Have you polluted the river Nile? No, I haven't. So some of these questions, like I said, are like, have you been a reason for tears for someone else? The answer should be no. I have never been a reason to make someone cry. Have you been ever like seduced another man's wife? No, I haven't. So these are the types of confession that should be answered by no. And like I said, the most like on a very high level of like civility of these ones, in my opinion, are like, have you harmed an animal? Have you harmed a plant by forgetting to water the plant? Have you polluted the river Nile? That's beside the regular questions like, have you committed a crime? Have you steal? Have you tell a lie? Have you like cheat? All these like good values, but like we're living by some of these values. But actually, if you look at the past, like these values, like I'm talking here about like almost 4,000 years ago, people lived by these values. If you go in the past, you will feel like we're still so far behind. We're not there yet.
Absolutely. I'd just like to stop, and our dear viewers, they can see this on the screen as I speak, but like you said, I've made none to weep. Something like I have not been an eavesdropper. Like I did not overhear people talking. I did not, stick my ear to them. I've slandered no man. I've not used any foul language against someone. I've not been angry without just cause. So there's always control of my anger. I curb my anger. I don't just let it loose. I have not polluted myself. I have not been wroth. I've not been cruel to someone. I'm not a stirrer up of strife. I don't disturb peace. I have not acted or judged with undue haste. So I take my time and think. I don't let myself go. I have not pried into matters. I did not, poke, stick my nose into other people's businesses. I have never stopped the flow of water. I've never raised my voice, spoken arrogantly or in anger. These things, were the requirements and the prerequisites for you to receive the feather of Ma'at. And today it's like in today's colloquial Egyptian, it's an idiom to tell someone, do you have a feather on your head? Means that, are you so special? Are you extra? Are you exalted over the other human beings? But if we take that literally, really, and integrate that with Ma'at's feather that you receive once you pass the test and go to the hereafter, don't you think that anyone who has these virtues in him should be really exalted over others in this day and age?
Of course. Actually, it's not just Egypt, still saying this, like feather on your head. Sometimes here too, you can hear it, like, this is going to be the feather in your cap, which means like you are actually on an extra or above and beyond the regular levels.
So it's really mind-boggling to think that we today believe that we're the more advanced people, that we are the better people, and they're talking about the pollution of water, or like hurting animals, or being so civilized and treating people with absolute civility and manners. So these are the things that we strive for. And interestingly enough, James Henry Breasted, when he wrote his book, The Dawn of Conscience, and which was followed later on by the book of Sigmund Freud, Moses and Monotheism, which was also, which sort of echoed the dawn of conscience. James Henry Breasted here says that the only way out and the only hope we have is to have a live conscience inside ourselves. And this conscience will be, in Sigmund Freud's words, our superego, our reference. So our inner self, we would have a live conscience. And, and the book is called The Dawn of Conscience, and the papyrus is called The Exit to the Dawn. What do you see of this amazing resemblance, or is this just mere coincidence?
Well, of course it's not. Like James Henry Breasted, when he wrote his book, he was an Egyptologist, right? and he was like he was following a religion, but like after life of experience in digging in the Egyptian history, and he found or he learned these values of the ancient people. He came to a conclusion saying that we are so far behind, and these people, they were more noble and humane, more than whatever came in the religions after this. Like the religions, they helped in making, I don't know, I don't want to call it violence, but like less manners or less values than these days.
And here, of course, we are not preaching for the ancient Egyptian religion, and we're not attacking any other religion, Abrahamic or none, but we are talking about the implementation. Okay, the texts, the sacred texts of religions might say, you know, outstanding things about virtue, but we're talking about what people implemented. Because interestingly enough, after the dawn of conscience, written by James Henry Breasted, which was written in the aftermath of World War One, just a few years later came World War Two, and which was followed by the Cold War, etc., 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 etc. Like, and look at our world today. We didn't learn the lesson yet, and we're really missing virtue. We're really missing virtue. And moving now to the affirmative parts, like one of the affirmative confessions is, and our viewers will see it here on the screen, is I honor virtue. I benefit with gratitude.
Yes.
I don't just snatch something from you and then I ignore you. No, I benefit with gratitude. I honor animals with reverence. So I revere animals. I speak positively of others. I'm
It means
trustful.
boy.
Amazing, like I'm trustful in my relationships. I hold purity in high esteem. I spread joy.
Hmm.
I listen to opposing opinions. Can you imagine that? Like thousands of years ago, the Egyptians believed that it's imperative, it's a must to listen to opposing opinions, and don't be a bigot. They were against bigotry, against all forms of dogma. Like you should be open to other ideas. I create harmony. I invoke laughter. I make people happy and laugh. I'm open to love in various forms. I speak with good intent. I am humble. And last but never least, I embrace the all. I have an all-encompassing heart and mind that can embrace everyone, no matter how different they are. Like, isn't that exactly the antidote against all the atrocities we see today?
Exactly, it is the opposite. No wonder why the ancient Egyptian like lasted for like almost 3,000 years, because they lived by manners and like good values, like how to treat each other, how to respect law, how to respect women, how to be equal, not to treat anybody bad or talk bad about someone, not to cheat, not to lie, not like all these good values. That's why they lasted. That's why, like, even after the ancient Egyptian, if you look back at the history, like women rights get less after this, to the point where they were not allowed to vote, until like very recent history. However, in ancient Egypt, women were queens, women were like doctors, right? So these people must have lived by these values. And the way we came up with these 42 laws or 42 questions from the Papyrus of Ani, it was written in hieroglyphics, and it was translated after discovering the ancient Egypt alphabets into these 42 questions. So it was amazing to every like archaeologist and Egyptologist at that time. Wow, look at what these people like lived by.
And yeah, like again, like you said here, it's two very amazing things. First of all, you said that it lasted for a very long time. And to have this continuum here and for this civilization to keep thriving and be alive and present a lot of great innovations and inventions even to humanity for such a, like we're talking about millennia here, not only like a couple of years, because somebody might tell you, okay, you know what, you don't have to be very just and you don't have to have a lot of freedom to create a civilization. Yes, true. Today we have some countries that are absolute dictatorships, but they are thriving. But the people are suffering of you know, they have, like, agony is there every day, and they're suffering under the yoke of the oppression in these countries. But the question is for how long they would last. And so it's impossible, really. It's against all rules of sociology, of anything, that a civilization can continue for such a long period without justice and you know, law that is really implemented, and you don't have anyone who's really above the law. The second and most important thing, again, is that you had peaks and troughs. There was rise and fall, a rise and fall, several rises and falls. Now, rise is easy, but to fall and then rise again is incredibly difficult unless you have very, very strong foundations. And we see in the ancient Egyptian civilization, they would fall, they would even, you know, be invaded, but later on they would, you know, kick the invader out, and after this subsides, they would flourish again and thrive again. So this is impossible to happen without real strong foundations and real profound basis of justice and virtue.
Yeah, exactly. Without a belief in this. And there's a lot of examples, Muhammad, about like justice in ancient Egypt. There's a lot. And we want to touch bases on this in the next few coming episodes, you know, just to show us and show the viewers how like these people actually, like, they were safe. They had the peace of mind, being they know that like the law and everybody around them is respecting the law, and everybody is like living by these type of manners. These were like the normal people living by. Today we're looking at, if somebody is living by these 42 values, we look at him as like insane. Like, who does this anymore, you know?
You know, unfortunately, manhood today is synonymous with being, I don't know, like with being insolent. You know, like the more foul language, the more roughness you use, the more like masculine you become, which is a big shame today. Just as a teaser, really, for what's coming later on, but would you shed just some light, just an intro, about the story of what they call the articulate, or the, you know, if you may, the eloquent peasant? So he's a farmer who lived in ancient Egypt, and he had several messages that he sent to the governor.
Yeah, so his goods were stolen. He was like a merchant, and his goods were stolen, and he decided to write to the governor at this time to complain, and he wants justice, and he wants the thieves to be arrested and his goods returned back to him. So because he was so like how do you say it, like he was so writing
He
his
was
message.
very eloquent and articulate with the language, so he had a very good command of the language. And
Exactly, yeah. So that the governor liked the way he wrote his messages, so he decided like not to tell him that he arrested the thieves and his goods can be returned back at him by any time soon. but he decided not to tell him anything. So he keeps sending messages. So the first three messages were like kind of like smooth and ease to the governor, and then it started to getting a little bit of aggressive tone in them. And then 9 messages it took them until he actually assault the governor and tell him that you were sent here and the king sent you here so to protect the thieves and to like go blind and not to see the truth what it is. And I believe that Maat left this estate or this province. She's not there anymore. That's why I'm leaving this. So it took him 9 messages, and then actually the governor decided to write him back saying that, sorry, we arrested the thieves since day one, and here are your goods, but we like the way you wrote your messages. So the lesson here is like, can you, as a farmer or as a regular person, write these type of messages assaulting the governor unless you know that there is justice there? Like if you're living in dictatorship, you would never do something like this.
Of course,
Ever.
of course. He'll be prosecuted, he'll be persecuted, he'll be oppressed. That will be his end, really. Like before he can, it's impossible that he sends 9 messages.
Exactly.
In dictatorship, it will be his first and last. Like there's no way. They will never give him a chance to do that. And I think it would be really great if we would shed some light on this in the future episodes.
And there is so many more examples to show you, like the law and these 42 values were actually the, like you would call it today, the Bible of like, you know, like everybody's following. There's nobody allowed to go outside of these values.
It's amazing, yeah. Like to have the eternal life and you know, it's to have eternal salvation, if you may, in the afterlife. You must confess and attest that you have done these things and have not done the other things, and it's really, you know, beyond me really to think of something that is more civilized and more humane than these 42 confessions of both types here.
And that's why James Henry Preston and like so many other archaeologists, like last time we spoke about Wallace Budge, and they were all admiring how noble the ancient Egyptians were.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can't blame them. At the end, Amra, like really, I can't thank you enough for being here. It's always a pleasure having
me here. Thank you so much.
And really looking forward to our future episodes. And like we told our dear viewers, we will be having every now and then some special episodes with some very outstanding guests. Dear viewers, if we were just to come here to a conclusion, really, it's justice and virtue. These are the 2 main pillars of any civilization in the world. There is never a civilization that lasted for a long time without both justice and virtue. Because once you build in justice and virtue, these are like the processors of any new software that you might insert in any computer, but you are building the basis of humanity, really, because humans are the ones who construct buildings, roads, mausoleums, pyramids, etc. Humans are the ones who make that, but the material wealth comes from the spiritual wealth and the mental wealth of humanity. And this is what ancient Egyptians must have had, or it would have been impossible for them to have such a great civilization that was and still is and probably will be for a very long time a civilization of wonders. and beyond human, imagination in today's world. We are really in desperate need of such values in today's, unfortunately, very ferocious world, really, and very violent world. Dear viewers, until we meet again, all lovers of Egyptian civilization, please take good care. Thank you very much.